May 4th. 4 seconds of silence can change a life forever. In just a few moments, one decision made out of ego can destroy years of love, trust, and everything that once felt unbreakable. This is not just a story, this could be someone's reality, maybe even someone you know. And what happens when pride speaks louder than love? You lose more than you ever imagined. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness and emotional real-life stories that touch the heart, please take a moment to subscribe to Kindness Story Hub, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps these stories alive. Now, let's begin. David was a 34-year-old man living in a quiet suburb of Chicago. On the outside, he had everything many people dream of: a stable job in marketing, a nice home, and a beautiful wife named Emily. They had been married for 7 years. But behind closed doors, things were not as perfect as they looked. David was proud. Not just confident, but stubbornly proud. He believed being right mattered more than being kind. Even when Emily tried to explain how she felt, he often shut her down with words like, "You're overthinking," or, "I know better." Emily, on the other hand, was gentle. She was the kind of woman who believed love could fix anything. She would cook his favorite meals after arguments, leave notes in his lunchbox, and wait for him to calm down before trying to talk again. But love has limits when it is not respected. One evening, everything started over something small. Emily asked David if they could attend her sister's birthday dinner. It was important to her. Family meant everything to her. But David had a work presentation the next morning and didn't want to go. "It's not a big deal," David said without looking up from his laptop. For Emily, it was a big deal. "It matters to me," she replied softly. David sighed. "Why do you always make everything emotional?" That sentence hit harder than he realized. Emily stayed quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Because I care about people." "That's not a weakness, David." But David's ego rose. "Fine. Go if you want." "I don't care," he said coldly. And just like that, the distance between them grew a little more. Emily went to the dinner alone that night. She smiled in front of her family, but inside, she felt alone even though she was surrounded by people who loved her. When she came back home, David was asleep on the couch. No apology. No concern. Just silence. Days passed. Then weeks. Small arguments turned into long silences. Long silences turned into emotional walls. Emily stopped leaving notes. David stopped asking how her day was. They were living in the same house, but emotionally, they were miles apart. One morning, Emily tried again. "David, we need to talk. This isn't working." But David, still trapped in pride, replied, "Everything is fine. You're just being dramatic." That was the moment something inside Emily broke. Not loudly, but quietly. She looked at him and said, "I don't think you see me anymore." David laughed slightly. "Of course I see you." But she shook her head. "No, you see yourself." Those words stayed in the air longer than either of them expected. That night, Emily packed a small bag. David noticed but didn't stop her. His ego convinced him she would come back like she always did. But she didn't. She left a note on the kitchen table. "I loved you more than my pride. I just wish you had loved me more than yours." The house felt different after she left. At first, David told himself it was temporary. He went to work, came back, ate alone, and slept in silence. But days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into emptiness. Then came the truth he avoided. Emily wasn't coming back. Her phone number was changed. Her social media went quiet. Even her family stopped responding the same way. That's when panic slowly replaced pride. David started remembering things. The way she smiled even after arguments. The way she waited for him at the door. The way she always chose peace, even when she was hurt. For the first time, he realized something painful. She wasn't weak. She was patient. And he mistook patience for permanence. Months passed. David tried reaching out, but it was too late. Emily had moved to another city to start fresh. She focused on her healing, her work, and rebuilding the version of herself she had lost in that relationship. One day, David received a message from Emily's sister. It simply said, "She's okay now. Please don't disturb her peace." That message broke him more than any argument ever had. Because he finally understood, he didn't just lose a wife. He lost someone who truly loved him without conditions. David changed after that. Not overnight. But slowly. He started therapy. He learned how ego destroys communication. He learned how listening is more powerful than being right. And most importantly, he learned that love doesn't survive where respect doesn't exist. But some lessons come too late. Years later, David still thought about Emily sometimes. Not with hope, but with understanding. He realized something simple but deep. You don't lose people suddenly. You lose them in small moments when ego speaks louder than kindness. Emily, on the other hand, found peace. She met new people. She laughed again. She built a life where her feelings were not dismissed. Where her voice mattered. Where love didn't feel like a battle. And she never hated David. But she never returned either. Because some goodbyes are not about anger, they are about self-respect. The story of David and Emily is not just about a broken marriage. It is about how ego silently destroys what love builds. Sometimes we think being right is important. But in relationships, being kind is what keeps everything alive. Because love doesn't die in big fights. It dies in ignored feelings. It dies in unspoken apologies. It dies when pride refuses to step back. If this story touched your heart, remember this. Choose kindness over ego. Always. Because one day, you may realize, the person you refused to understand was the one who truly cared the most. And by then, it might already be too late. Thank you for watching Kindness Story Hub. If this story made you reflect, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And always remember. Kindness is never a weakness. It is the strongest form of love.